Hello everyone, this is Dr. MacKenzie, and today I'd like to talk about coaching. For that, I have a guest speaker with me, Hollie Spencer. She holds a bachelor's degree from Indiana University in English and a master's of science in human resources and organizational development from none other than the University of Louisville. Hollie currently leads a team responsible for required compliance training in the healthcare industry. Prior to that work, she was responsible for HR functions from a hospital group. And before that, she was an assistant VP for human resources in the financial industry. Hello, Hollie. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And I understand that you have done coaching prior, right?
Yes, I have worked in coaching a lot, both in the official and formal way and then more of an informal way. I have a lot of colleagues that will seek me out to work through coaching with them and work through goals that they have. We formalized that program a little bit within my department now because we have really felt like it works for us. So,
And that's thank you. That's great. So I'd like to dive into a couple of things here. So though the audience that is listening to this are generally students that belong to our program, and this particular topic is so dear to me because the coaching perception is many a times misinterpreted. For example, I know that in the past people have said you need to be coached out or you need to be coached, and the person hearing that is going to automatically believe that they have done something wrong and they have to be corrected. What are your thoughts about that?
It's interesting because there are a lot of negative perceptions in the coaching around the word coaching, right? So when we think about it in sports, we think about needing to be coached, and our coach needs to tell us instructions and tell us what to do. In the business world, you just mentioned that people are being coached out, or they're being coached because their performance is low. So again, this is just a misconception all around throughout the industry and throughout the working world, that coaching is a negative thing. And again, that's just a misnomer. Coaching is a good thing. It can lead to a lot of development. I would say there are many top executives in organizations that have had coaches themselves, and for various reasons. There might be a coach that needs to, somebody that needs to get better at speaking engagements, and so they'll have a coach for that. Or maybe they're setting a goal in the future to get another position, and that's a good thing, right? Sometimes that's a promotion, and so with that, they would have a coach to help them get where they need to go. So we need to try to stop using coaching as such a negative word and continue forward and using it in a more positive way.
I really like that remark, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Those examples of executive coaches and speaking coaches, etc., because one of the tasks that we are going to be required to complete as we finish this program and do continue to do work in HR, as some of the participants of this course are or have been or will be doing, is definitely fight that misperception. That's the first thing. But then the second thing is, I wonder how can they disarm the coachee in many cases so they don't have this misperception, especially when we're talking about performance, which, by the way, that is part of the course, part of the purpose of this course is talk about coaching for performance. So evidently people will need to hear something that will enhance or help them redirect their efforts so their performance can be higher. But the question is, how can they do that? How can they coach someone to elevate the performance when they already have that negative perception of coaching?
Yeah, I think it's part of it is that you have to be a little bit vulnerable, and you have to be ready, and you have to be in this space to have a coach. And also your mindset. We can think about coaching as oh, I'm not doing something correctly, so I need to have a coach. Or we can think of something of, wow, how exciting. I'm getting ready to take the next step in my career. I'm going to be learning something new, and I'm going to have a coach, and they're going to help guide me through that process. So first of all, you have to be really vulnerable in that situation, but then you also have to look at it in a more exciting next move in your career, next move in your goal setting, whatever the case may be.
That's a great point. You make me think when you say that vulnerability, you make me think about the emotional intelligence and having, number one, the empathy, but number two, having the relationship. So when we seek out a coach, we are willing to listen to them, participate, have a conversation. Similarly, the trust that exists between the two of them is so important. So I love that vulnerability piece. So that's a huge takeaway. And you made me think about this because many people talk about coaching certifications. And sometimes, just like teaching, some people are born with the gift of teaching, and others just have to work at it. I believe coaching is something similar, right? There are people that have the natural inclination to be coaches. I can see it with sports coaches, especially parents that are coaching their kids' teams for not for profit. But in other cases too, is people are sought for that. Like, hey, let me get your thoughts about X, Y, Z, right? So that's by identification they become pseudo coaches of sorts. What is your thought about a coaching certification? Is that always necessary, and will it give you the same type of coaches across?
Yeah, I think coaching is one of those things that you need to test the waters a little bit to see if you are good at coaching. Oftentimes thinking about, do people seek you out for advice? Do they seek you out to talk through their next career move? Do they seek you out to assist in developing them? So if somebody does that, and if you are sought out for these things, then it might be something that you're really good at and you want to pursue. And the other thing is as a coach, do you get energy from that? Do you get energy helping these other people find their way and find the path that they want to be on and help them find success? You don't have to have certifications. There are some out there. I would just be very careful on what you really want to do with that. If you're doing it to have those credentials, or if you're doing it because you really want to do it and you have a passion for doing it. Likewise, if you're seeking out a coach, you need to make sure that you mesh with them well and the personalities really trade off in that coaching environment versus just having somebody that has a certification.
I love that. You're making me think about the instances where people may have a certification and we see them as experts, but if we don't have that right chemistry, they can tell us a lot of things that will feel like we need to defend ourselves, right? Or they may just ask us a question and then they expect us to do all the talking. I have seen instances. Have you had any experiences like that where some coaches appear to be less involved in the coaching exercise than others?
Yeah, actually, in my career, I've had a coach, and the style of coaching was to ask the how are you doing? What are you working on? And I pretty much drove the conversation the rest of the time and didn't really, it wasn't a back and forth conversation. It wasn't an exchange of words, of questions. So I felt as though I was just talking and talking and talking and really not going anywhere with it. And so it didn't help me. It wasn't anything that was a good fit for me. But at the time, I didn't know the coaching world as much as I do now. And so it wasn't something that really I had any clue about. But again, I think coaches that want to have that impact on goal setting and development and performance really drive the conversation by asking questions and then waiting for those answers and then build questions on after that based on what is said during the conversation. So it takes a lot of active listening during the conversation to continue to build on and commit to that coaching relationship.
That is, I think that's the heart of the entire exercise. So I think of the listeners that are participating in the course. We have a book, Coaching for Performance by John Whitmore. And in the book, one of the things that I got from the reading is he talks about how the coach is not going to be prescribing, yet the coach is not going to just sit in the back and let the person do the work. It's almost like the coach helps one realize the path. I mean, I'm being a little bit of um, abstract here, but I'm thinking of the guide, which kind of takes me to the other word that I have heard, mentoring. Some people equate mentoring and coaching. For the purposes of this course, I will tell my participants that we are going to use them exchangeably. The reality, though, is they both are different. What are your thoughts about the difference between these two words, coaching versus mentoring?
So when I think of coaching, I think of someone seeking out another person to help them achieve a goal, help them with performance, help them to get where they need to go. When I think of a mentor is somebody that you seek out to tell me everything that you have in your career. Tell me everything that you've done, the steps that you've taken. So it's very focused on the person that's in the position that you're seeking out versus how you as a person can get to that next level of your performance.
That is phenomenal because you make me think, for example, in the space that we are in, the human resource space, and we deploy ourselves into the HR force, into the workforce as HR specialists or HR practitioners. If a leader comes to us and requests coaching, we still have to, before finding that resource, we still must explore whether it's coaching or mentoring what fits best. Would you say that that's about right?
Yes, yeah, that's very accurate. And if you think about it too, mentors oftentimes have many people at the same time that they are sharing their knowledge and their wisdom with. So it's not necessarily that one-on-one development. It's usually with a group, and it requires very little from the mentor, and it also requires not too much from the mentee as well. So there's really just that, I would say, an abstract relationship between the two of them, whereas a coach is going down this path of helping a person develop and helping with their performance as they are seeking that
I love that. That's more declared. And I love that you just came back to the word performance because that's part of the reason for this course. We're coaching for performance. So now that we have talked about the demystification of coaching not being a negative thing, and we also talked about the different certifications and the benefits of having a certification versus not, now the difference of coaching versus mentoring, I like to definitely go down the path on the next conversation we have about that coaching for performance. For now, though, I really thank you for joining me today, and I hope you can join me again in the future.
out. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here and look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Holly.